Welcome back. So now that we know the engine runs and looks like we have everything hooked up properly, we have a pretty short list of little things to do before we bring it up to the hangar. George was working on some configuration in the software on the G3X and all of the little communication boxes, and right now he's working on the connector that allows us to connect all of the headset stuff from my fancy center console to our communication box. That's pretty much the last thing. We had one wire that he wanted to pull out of here and replace, and we're 99% there that we can cover the boot cowl. I think we're just doing one final test. One thing that we totally forgot to do, even though the engine ran fine, we were curious about or a little confused about the phasing scenario that you have to do, but we never actually checked left and right ignition. So the plan is to basically do another engine run while it's here, and we have a punch list of a few things to check. But left to do is fill the brake fluid. I never actually had the brake fluid in there, so that's why we had the thing tied to a car. Relace the ignition wires, but I'm going to do that once because I moved one from the Lightspeed red box to the other side, just to make sure that everything is right there with left and right ignition. Hook up the tail wheel, that's small. Check the left and right ignition. Set the prop pitch. So actually dug out the manual because we kind of just set a very slight pitch because we didn't want too much thrust. We eyeballed it basically for now. So my friend let me borrow his $1 million snap-on torque wrench, so I will go through that and set everything to 100%. I still got to do the receiving end in the wings for the connectors. I can do that while it's here, and the pitot hookup. So I had ordered a couple of these fittings that have the 1/8 inch MPT, because we run in the G5, which requires static and pitot, and the AOA only goes to the IDARs. And so I'm going to put this in so the tube can basically run in it and then come right back out and go over to the G5 and the G3X respectively. And the reason I want to do it that way is to leave, so basically the static line comes from the right side and goes over to the left side. Then I want the static line to come out of this and go into that, and vice versa for the pitot, to leave some suspension in here as you're taking it in and out. If I tee these off here and just go there and there, yeah, I can leave a big kind of a loop, but I think this will just make it that much neater. So yeah, talk about the brake fluid in a second. All right, I am a bit of a rookie because I've never, if I have bled brakes, it was back in high school. So I ended up getting this little pump thing from AutoZone and hooked it up with a piece of 1/4 inch tubing there and just fit it on there. And I believe you basically just loosen this and fill fluid until it goes through the system and ends up inside here. And you do that for both sides. So I'm gonna give it a try. I'm sure I'll do something wrong or make a mess if that pump even works along the way, but keep you posted. Well, that was pretty uneventful, and don't want to jinx myself, but a lot less mess than I expected. I basically filled it, and I was just watching the video. It took about 12 to 15 pumps of that little pump mechanism, and this one I couldn't hear, so I just pumped it a few times and then stuck a wire tie in it. And once I saw a little bit of fluid in here, because it obviously comes in from the bottom, I stopped And then I moved the apparatus over here, and as I started pumping, because now it's pushing all of the fluid through the system on the left side, I could hear gurgling from the air bubbles in the reservoir. So it's good to be in a quiet environment. So I pumped, and checked a few times, but the fluid was still at the same level. And then eventually, like the last 2 pumps, I didn't hear anything. So that's telling me that fluid came into this. So I just took a little hose, piece of pitot tube, and kind of measured it, you know, like those primitive fuel gauges. So it looks like I'm about a quarter or a third of the way full. So the nice thing about that setup is I can actually just take this pump and pump a little bit more fluid in. I think it's going to be about halfway, but I'm going to check that before I overfill it. And then, curious as I am, I don't have the seats in it, but I took it off of the, took the chocks out and basically pushed the brake pedal. They all feel stiff, you know, so all this time they haven't been stiff, but the right feels a little, I don't know, I have to get in there, but important thing is you push it up and they work. So pretty excited. I'm gonna try the parking brake, but I gotta put the camera down for that. All right, I put the seat in. I'm happy to report that both pedals are hard as a rock. Pull the parking brake, and she don't go anywhere. I lifted the tail up and tried to move it left and right for, you know, see if the differential braking is working, and it works perfectly. So happy to report that. That was I don't know, I kind of anticipated maybe a whole evening worth of work, and it took about 10 minutes. I'm also happy to report I put the seat in, and we never got to test the seat heaters, but they work. But most excited I am of the fact that my fuel tank, our fuel tank, does not leak. It's been not a week, but probably 4 or 5 days. This has been underwater over here, you know, pretty close to high tide, and I don't see any leaks anywhere or smell any fuel, so really happy. Brakes done. If anybody cares, this is the piece I bought at AutoZone, local auto parts store. It's has this funky, this is the pump for the brake fluid, and it has this funky thing that fits, I guess, gallons and quarts, and it fit the brake fluid that I had bought from Aircraft Spruce or whatever. It was like 12 bucks, but yeah, worked great. All right, next up, propeller. And basically the Whirlwind prop comes with all of these paperwork, which is nice. It's got pictures, which is even nicer for people like me. And I think the idea is I got my little digital measuring device, protractor, and you want to get the left and right blade level, then use the backing plate as a reference for the front of the hub, which is also flat. Then hook this guy on, measure, and I think they've been saying like 17.5 degrees works great, just from the RANS Facebook group and little vlog and what have you. Then you rotate the prop 180 degrees and do the same thing. So we'll give it a whirl. First I gotta unloosen those bolts that are held on with the Norlock washers. And one thing that is kind of weird if you're not used to it is when you undo the Norlock washers, there's like a big clunk. It sounds kind of scary, but it's so basically what I did is I loosened these up again after our initial run. I kind of tightened them finger tight. Alright, so we got that close. So that should be pretty level. More than anything for reference, I guess you could also just measure the actual tip from the ground. So we are exactly 61 inches. So we'll use both of those as a reference. Then this is flat. This kind of flexes a little bit, so I didn't use that, but I found this to be flat. I think that works pretty good. So we'll zero it out there. Push it up against it. Alright, so that's zeroed out. Check it again. Zeroed out. Alright, I'm good with that. Then I actually clamped it on this, and I used two little clamps just because it's easier. And by the way, this is me doing it first time, so for entertainment purposes only, no instructions. And you slide this on, and the goal was like 17, oh look at that, 17.5 degrees. So we're at 17.4. Now, if the prop goes up and down, like if this turns a little bit, it does make a difference, but and then you rotate the prop 180 degrees. What did I say? 161 to the tip? No, 61. Okay. So that would be right about there. And do the same thing. So this one's 16 and a half, so we need to get a little bit more out of it. Look at that. $17.5. 45. Just want to make sure that that's level and straight. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tighten them for the instructions and then check it again. So this is definitely dangerous when they give you too much information. We have the 3/8 bolts. It's 300 to 325 inch-pounds. So we'll average that, we'll go right in the middle, and it's 312.5. Now here's a real big problem. I borrowed this $1 million snap-on torque wrench from my friend Fernando, but it doesn't give me half, so it only goes to 312 or 313, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'll probably do half the bolts at 312 and the other half at 330. I'm only kidding, okay? Right now I was just kind of tightening them by feel, and what they want you to do is keep an eye on this gap between the two hubs and make sure that it's kind of the same. So kind of just doing that cross pattern. So I'll check the angle again now and then do a final torque. All right, what I did there is I basically started at 160 pounds, first finger tighten, and then I did whatever, this, that. Then I went to 160 being like half of the 320. Then looking at the 3/4, it was like 240 inch-pounds, did the same thing, went through it. And now I'm gonna go to the 312.5 inch-pounds. All right, this $1 million torque wrench is pretty cool. So I set it to 312, you can adjust it there. And then you basically just, there we go, lock it on. And then you can see the reading as it goes up. Turns yellow, 260, 270, 280, 300. And there we are at 312. Move on to the next one. Same thing, 230, 280, 312.5. Rinse and repeat. All right, one last time. Pitch check, 17.5 degrees. I don't know if that's flashing on the video or not, but all tightened, torqued, and that's the prop. If I did anything wrong, let me know, but that's how I did it. Might be useful information in the future. I know you have to check the torque on the bolts after 5 minutes of running, then 5 hours, 25 hours, and so on. And probably wasn't necessary to put the spinner on, but since there's no inner or outer, whatever, the second hub to support it, you know what I mean? I mean, it has a little bit of flex in it, and I have the dot where I think is the center. So anyway, next time I run it, I just want to see, make sure this thing doesn't like wobble all over the place. Other than that, I'm finishing up the good old checklist. And one of the things I had to do was tighten the rudder return, hook up the tail wheel again, so I did that, and figure out which exact spot these are in. So far it looks, I think I may have figured this out early on, but I'd left it loose since then. So the top one, basically the rudder cables are in the main middle hole of that, of the choices, and then the bottom one is, so I guess it would be the third hole in. Like there's a row that extends a little bit further out, you probably can't see, and that row where the second tightest, I guess, or third tightest, because you can go up one and down. Anyway, so tightened all that, took that apart, double checked all that, and one thing I noticed was when the autopilot engaged, it slid on this thin cable. So this cable is significantly thicker than that one. I know I talked about this when I built these things. So I drilled them out to 2 different sizes. It gripped on the big cable, but it didn't, the thin cable slipped out. So what I'm gonna do is basically, I think, tape these on here, and just to try and take, I don't know, ever so little off of it on the table saw to try and make these so they're tighter. Wish me luck. All right, that was a little bit hairy, but I got it. So I got them down from 0.25 inches to 0.23. So took a little bit off of that. And then I was trying to find a way to cut these grooves in here without a milling machine. So I basically put it at a 45. So just the corner of the blade, nix it, and then just ran it through and marked them all. And they line up. This way they're all in the same spot. And now I'm drilling these out with, let's see, so the smaller one's a 53 drill bit, and I think the bigger one I'm gonna use a 42, maybe start with a 43. So, yeah. That worked out good. I have them tightened on here again. I cannot pull them as hard as I pull them by hand. And I have a little gap that I didn't have before, so that means they're tightening onto the cable, and I guess I could tighten them a little bit more. Same thing on the bottom. So happy with that, and I'm moving on to one more thing on my list, was to fill these things with RTV. So what I kind of did is I loosened the clamp and I stuck the nozzle in and all around and between the wires, like in this case we have multiple harnesses, and then tightened this, not killer tight, but as tight as I think it should be, which is pretty tight, and it oozed out. And now I take my little Coke spoon, that's what I call it, I don't know what it's actually for, and smear it around there. That's as good as I can make something messy look, but does the job. So like I said, I filled it about, I don't know, an inch in on all of these, squeezed the daylights out of it, and then tightened this. I ended up tightening this, but then I actually ended up loosening it again because this has the vacuum line in it for the light speed ignition, so I didn't want to restrict it. I think I'm gonna end the video here. There's certainly a lot that we did. The brake fluid prop, I don't even remember all the stuff, but tomorrow I think we're gonna do another engine run, and we really don't have much to do. I know George is working on the connector for the COM box that goes to the center console, and we got to fix a few pins on the stick, and I'm gonna just replace the lesser wire ties with the nylon tip ones. And I keep like, oh, we gotta take this wire out of the pin, but yeah, I think we're gonna do an engine run. I just called for Penske truck availability. We're gonna do a 26-foot box truck. It's probably gonna cost us a couple $100 with the mileage. It's $110 or $20 or $30 plus 99 cents a mile. And we're about 25 miles from the airport, so round trip, $50 on the mileage. And the plane's like 22 feet long and the box truck is 26. I'm hoping that maybe we can take the wings and everything all in one shot. The wheels I think are 7 feet, but the truck is 8 feet wide, and the height shouldn't be a problem either. So anyway, I thank you for watching, and good night. Maybe we'll start the engine tomorrow, and that'll be in the next video again. Engine test number 2. See ya.